Cape Cod is not only a premier vacation destination, but for many of us, it's our home. Within its miles of shoreline, there is a diversity of spirits, talents, and interests. Cape Cod Arts and Beyond is a look at you and I who live here and are inspired to create. From the bridges over the Cape Cod Canal to the sand dunes of Provincetown and everywhere in between, we look to profile, highlight some of this artistic spirit. On occasion, we may venture off the Cape as well. Our goal is to educate, inspire, engage, and entertain. Enjoy Cape Cod Arts and Beyond with John Murelle. So thank you for watching Cape Cod Arts with John Murelle at its new home at Bourne Community TV. Our program today I think you'll like very much. I am interviewing producer Mark Cortale, who's responsible for bringing some of the biggest names on Broadway to the Art House in Provincetown. So last month we drove down to Provincetown on a sunny, bustling day. We entered the dark theater of the Art House and interviewed producer Mark Cortale. Names like Patti LuPone, Kristen Chenoweth, Neil Patrick Harris, Audra McDonald, among many others. So how does Mark get this talent, this incredible talent, to Provincetown and have them come back over and over again? We kind of know what a music director does and what a director does and certainly what a performer does, but what in fact does a producer do? Sit back and watch. All right, here we are at the Art House on Commercial Street in Provincetown. Now you've heard me interview in years past on Cape Cod Arts with John Murelle, Seth Rudetsky, who is the sort of interviewer and a pianist extraordinaire for Broadway at the Art House. But how does all this come together? That's what I want to know. And behind the stage is often a producer. Remember that song, "Hey, Mr. Producer"? I know I had to do it. It's pretty obnoxious, I know. But this is Mark Cortale of the Art House, Broadway at the Art House. And Mark, my first question for you is welcome. But my first question for you is, tell the listeners what exactly is a producer as opposed to a director or a performer? What do you do?
It's a good question. Thank you for having me here. You know, a producer really is in charge of everything. So my job starts with programming the theater and booking the talent, but also hiring the incredible tech staff that we have. Hi, Jamie. and also the box office staff and the ushers, everything. I mean, even arranging to have this piano tuned falls on me. So it's really making sure every detail is taken care of. A director primarily only concerns themselves with what goes on stage, the show. Mm-hmm. A producer has a lot more behind the scenes work to do, and also, you know, is involved with the procuring and the negotiating and a lot of the financial stuff as well.
Sure. Do you go to school for this? How do you become a producer? I'd like to become a producer. Is there a degree at NYU for this or something?
You know, there actually is. I didn't do a course of study for it, but there are graduate programs in theater arts and management. And, you know, there's a famous one at Yale and at Columbia. But, you know, I really learned on the job. I started out as a performer myself. I was an operatic tenor. And anyway, in order to just sort of supplement my income, I started working as an artist manager.
Yeah.
And my very first client was Jeff Roberson, who plays Varlet Jean Merman, who's an art house artist. And
a movie star, right?
And a movie star, absolutely. And, you know, he's one of the most talented people that I've ever met. And I met him here in Provincetown. And I was starting a theater company in New York, a not-for-profit theater company, and I saw Jeff's show at the Post Office Cabaret in 1999, and I thought, oh my God, this guy is brilliant.
Right.
And I thought that the show would work incredibly well in Manhattan as an extended theatrical run. And, you know, Jeff sings, he's an operatic tenor.
Is he?
Well, he's actually a countertenor.
Okay.
So he basically, his whole show was about mixing opera and pop music, and I was so impressed by that. And I really wanted to work with him, and that was kind of how I started. That was my first producing endeavor. And one thing led to another, and I started to manage Jeffrey, and the show that we worked on in New York, I started booking it in other cities, and I did that for about maybe 5 or 6 years. And another good friend of mine from New York, Seth Rudetsky, who you mentioned, asked me if I would actually start managing him and help him with bookings. And that's kind of how
Word
I
of
fell
mouth
into
is
it.
really the best thing, right?
Yeah, it was really on-the-job training.
Yeah. And you call yourself the producer and the artistic director, so that, I would imagine, has to do with who comes into your theater, right? You make the decisions, probably along with Seth, perhaps, who's involved on this stage?
Well, yes. I mean, because the Art House is the theater that I run.
Yes.
Here at the Art House, I'm the artistic director. But when I'm working outside of Provincetown, I really act as the producer.
I
So
see.
because I'm programming the entire season, you know, the difference in the semantics is really about specific theater. So because I'm at the Art House and no one else is programming the Art House, and the 2 theaters here I'm lucky enough to run, my title is artistic director. But when I work in other theaters and other venues, then I
get
am the
rid of the
producer.
second name?
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
exactly.
But they're both impressive names.
Thank you.
The Broadway, the Art House here in Provincetown, has sort of been in operation since 2011. Is that correct?
Correct.
And in that time, I've been fortunate to see Megan Hilty, Megan Mullally, Patti LuPone, Cheetah Rivera, the list goes on, Audra McDonald, Vanessa Williams, all highlights. You must have highlights, though. Out of this time between 2011 and now, do you have any brilliant highlights that you'd like to share with us?
Wow. Well, I love working with all of these artists.
I'm sure.
I don't have a favorite. I can say that probably the most exciting night in terms of being in Provincetown was when I realized that in order to bring Kristin Chenoweth to Provincetown, that the Art House was frankly too small.
Okay.
So it was my first endeavor at Town Hall, and it was in August of 2014, and Richard J. Alexander, who is her brilliant director, invited the Gentlemen of Well Strung, the string quartet that I work with, to perform in her show. So there was a lot going on that night. It was Well Strung's first time working with Kristin Chenoweth, and frankly working with such, a phenomenal performer. It was such an honor for them. But it was also my first time producing at a venue that was 700 seats. And we sold out 2 shows, and it was something that had never been done in Provincetown before. And it was really thrilling. And so much of what's happened in the past 2 years with the series came out of Kristin's brilliant performance on that night in August.
That's amazing. These Broadway performers, are they different than us? Do they just have, I just go, how does Patti LuPone have all that energy? Christine Ebersole, how can one person be so talented? When they're off stage, are they just like you and I, like regular people, or they glow?
That's a great question. Most of them really off stage are just regular people. And it's very important to remember that as a producer, because that's really what it's about, is connecting. I find it's about connecting with people one-on-one and making sure that they're really well taken care of and that they have a fantastic time. And my goal when I produce a show or when I work with an artist is not only for it to be successful, but for the artist to want to come back and to work with me again, and potentially in other cities. And anyway, that's not to say that all of these people that you mentioned are stars for a really specific reason, and that's kind of what happens when they're on stage. I think off stage, you know, there are certainly performers who have a lot of big energy when they're off stage, but then there are others who are really shy and kind of quiet, and they save it for being on stage.
I remember Christine Ebersol saying, Faith Prince saying, you know, there are people that just kind of move into their careers nice and slow, and then there are other people that, and I was like, well, that's refreshing. Like, she just slowly did it, you know?
Right.
Some of the people may not know what the format of Broadway at the Art House with brilliant pianist, an interview with Seth Rudetsky. What is it like? Can you explain to us what you sort of established with your traditional show here?
Well, Seth had been doing a series, Chatterbox show. It was called Seth's Broadway Chatterbox in Manhattan at Don't Tell Mamas. And it was a Thursday evening show that would benefit Broadway Cares Equity Fights AIDS.
Good.
And it was an interview show. And at the end of the interview, he was having these weekly shows with performers who were working on Broadway, and they'd be from 5 to 6, so that at the end of the show, the performer could go across the street and go to their dressing room and start getting ready for their performance. But at the end of the show, they would always sing one song. And, you know, my background as a singer and just loving the music, of course, the interviews were really fascinating and entertaining, but I was always waiting for the song at the end of the show.
Yes.
And when I got this job here at the Art House, Seth was the first person that I called, and I proposed the idea of doing this interview format that he had been using for years, but instead of having one song at the end of the show, I thought, can we do it with, say, 10 songs and have the interview sort of take the place of traditional patter that you would see in a cabaret show. So, you know, Seth says...
I'm all over that, yes.
Yeah, so Seth says that the format of the show is song, chitty-chat, song, chitty-chat. So what happens is the show starts, and Seth is at the piano, and the artist is center stage singing, and then both artists, Seth and the performer, will get up, and after the first song, they'll get up and take these chairs.
These chairs, right?
These chairs.
This is the stage, folks.
Yeah, these chairs, they're a little bit over.
Yeah.
But there's a little bit more room. And anyway, and then the interview will start, and the chat will, I don't know, it might go for about 5 minutes, and then they'll get up and perform a second song. And it's like one big entertaining, educational, hilarious interview, but it's broken up with these phenomenal songs. So it feels like a concert, but it also feels like you're getting to know each artist in a very intimate way.
I agree. I like the idea that it's educational. I don't like to go anywhere and not learn something. So if I just learn a few things about how they do it, or what's it like to be on Broadway, or how do you keep your voice in shape, things that are interesting to me, I always find that much more interesting. Seth is not only a brilliant interviewer, but he's a fabulous pianist, right?
He's an incredible pianist, he's an incredible musician, and I have to say none of this would have happened without Seth. I am forever indebted to him and so grateful, because he is the one who has had all these contacts, and he has worked with these people some of them for over 25 years. I mean, he played Audra McDonald's graduation recital from Juilliard.
Right.
And, you know, she and so many of the performers have come to Provincetown to do this series because of Seth. So it's, you know, it's been great to help facilitate that and certainly to produce that. But it's really, he's so gifted, and as a host, he really wants the show to be both educational and entertaining.
He's a teacher. You know, if you watch his stuff, he's a teacher. I really think that Broadway at the Art House, you and Seth and all the people you brought have made an impact on Provincetown.
Wow.
We call it the arts economy, as we call it, an entertainment or a tourist destination. Would you agree? And do you have any tangible reasons how you've changed, without bragging, but, you know, do you feel like you've really made a contribution and changed the face of, because I think you guys have.
Well, that's so nice of you. Thank you. You know, I would like to believe that that's true. I know that what's happened since I've started here and the series has begun, and what's different is that people will write me in advance of planning their vacations, and they will literally plan their trips around who's performing at the art house, and that's an incredibly flattering thing to have happen. And people who have never come to Provincetown, and let alone seen a show here, have made trips because of specific artists coming. I mean, we had that in so many cases. I mean, when Megan Mullally was here, we had 2 girls fly from Colombia to, you know, come and see the show because they were such fans. And you know, we have it happen with Marilyn May's show, that people plan their vacations around when Marilyn May is coming, and they go to Provincetown for the first time because Neil Patrick Harris is doing a show and they want to see him live. So, you know, I definitely feel like the programming has helped with the tourism here in a really great way, and I'm proud of that, and I'm so grateful to the audiences that keep coming back.
Good, I agree. I mean, it's a great, and this is not a big theater, right? How many seats are there?
There are 127 seats in this theater, so it's pretty small.
We call that intimate, right?
It's very intimate.
Yes. So when you're here watching a show, you're really like, it's that close, right? I mean, with some of these people. Great. You don't know, but I've perhaps you do, I've reviewed a lot of programs here for the Cape Cod Times. And I always see Mark, and Mark takes a minute to come over and say hi to my partner John and I. You always seem so calm and cool and relaxed. Is that just your makeup and your facade, or are you really kind of that way?
No, I'm really kind of that way. I feel so blessed and fortunate to have the job that I have and to be doing this work. And after many, many years as a performing artist, this just, it's so much easier to be on the producing end of it for me. I think just personality-wise, it's more suiting for me. And I think that in terms of all of the excitement and all of the energy and sometimes all of the hysteria that goes into working at a theater, you know, there has to be someone at the helm to kind of remain calm and to make sure things are going smoothly. And I'm not saying I'm able to do that every day, but I really try to, you know, to do that.
I'm sure you do. Well, it's impressive. Do you think your operatic performing and training helped you do that? Because opera can be a little tense, right?
It's an interesting question. You know, I'm not sure. I think that there's so much concentration and focus in opera, and I think that in any kind of performing, you realize how important it is to take care of the artist. And I've always approached this as when an artist arrives in Provincetown and is going to work at this theater, I want them to be treated the way that I wanted to be treated when I was singing, and you know, and often was, and it just always made the experience more pleasant. And you know, I can't take all of the credit. Bringing people to Provincetown is, you know, I'm lucky to have a theater in a location that is, you know, bucolic and peaceful and gorgeous. It's not a hard sell often to say to someone, would you like to come to Cape Cod and stay on the water and you know, and do a couple of shows in the summer? Most artists really fall in love with Provincetown the moment they get here, and they want to come back.
Excellent. Good.
So.
I'm sure. So you've got a really good situation. I don't have much more time, but Well Strung. Tell me about the string quartet.
Well, I am so proud of these guys. You know, in 2010, I was here in Provincetown, and it was before I started working at the Art House as the artistic director, and I saw Chris Marchand, who is a violinist, and he was here in town doing the show Naked Boy Singing, and he was playing outside of the Ranch Guest House.
Yeah.
And he had his violin case out, and he was busking, and he was playing Mozart, and I knew that he sang, and it was one of those things where I thought, who is this guy, and what's he doing playing the violin? And he was so good, and I took a photograph of him, and I posted it on Facebook, and I had the caption, I don't think I mentioned, he was not wearing a shirt.
Okay,
so
that helps.
That sort of, you know, it made the photograph in the sense that it was a unique thing to see a violinist on the street without a shirt playing Mozart. And the caption I wrote underneath the photo was "Gotta Love Provincetown." And I posted that, and the next day I had many, many comments and likes, and I started seeing him, and I thought, you know, I think there's a show here. And I approached him and asked him if he would consider my producing a show that combined pop music and classical music for the violin, and also vocals, because I knew obviously that he sang. And he thought about it, and he said that he thought it was a fantastic idea, but he thought it would work better as a string quartet than as a solo violinist. So that's how the group started. As you know, it took about a year after that initial meeting with Chris, but I partnered with Donna Drake and Chris, and we found our cellist Daniel Shevlin through Facebook, and then we had an open call in New York and advertised in Backstage and Playbill, and found our first violinist Edmund Bagnell and our violist Trevor Wadley. And you know, from there the group just had its fifth summer in Provincetown, and I think that it just keeps getting better and better. I mean, last summer they performed for Hillary Clinton here in Provincetown, and in the fall they were invited to perform for President Obama. So
yeah.
I just, you know, I could not be more proud of these guys. They really have an incredible show, and they're great artists.
And the music is at very high level, yes?
Yes, the music is at a really high level. They're classical musicians, and they sing, and it's the type of show where if you haven't seen Well Strung, you haven't seen classical string players who can sing, and it's very different.
There are music videos of them, right?
Oh yes,
There
go
are.
to well-strung.com and check out their videos. Really fantastic.
Maybe I could put one on the show?
Yeah, that would be wonderful.
I'll talk to you about that. Last thing, is this it? Is this what you do? You produce shows here, or do you have other things in the fire for the future in other towns? Please tell the viewers.
Oh, that's so nice. Yeah, you know, I do. After the first 2 years here in Provincetown, I realized that what we were doing here could work in other cities, and the first city we went to is New Orleans, and we do the series there now.
When?
Well, this year it's going to be October, December, and January. And so far we have Judy Kuhn and Adam Pascal on board for 2 of the shows, and I'm programming the 3rd. And then we're also doing the series in San Francisco for the 3rd year, and in Philadelphia we're now at the Kimmel Center, entering our 2nd year there, and also our 4th year at the Broward in Fort Lauderdale.
Oh,
so
wow.
There's been a lot of activity. It's been really great, and it basically, between Well Strong and the Broadway series and running the art house, all of my time is occupied.
Oh, that's
So-
great. That's good. So you'll be here in Provincetown for a few more weeks and then moving
Yeah,
on?
I'll be here until the end of September, and then I go back to New Orleans, where I live with my husband when I'm not here,
Oh, okay.
and I'll be working down there.
Great. Well, I want to thank you for coming, or letting me come here. I came here. And, you know, it's nice to be with someone that is successful, that's grateful for being successful, that sees that there's more going on. It's very inviting and invigorating, I should say, for me. And I appreciate you being a part of Cape Cod Arts.
Thank you.
And we expect to see you back in 2017, yes?
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm just getting ready, and I've started programming for next summer already. So
Excellent.
thank you for your support, and thanks for inviting me. It's
Yeah.
so great.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you very much, folks. See you next time on Cape Cod Arts with John Murelle. Now, we've really enjoyed presenting Cape Cod Arts and beyond to you. And if you have any thoughts about what you think of the show, or if you have anyone that you think would be really good as an interview for the program, please email me at the address down below, jmurelle@mac.com. I'll be sure to look at it and respond. Again, enjoy Cape Cod Arts and Beyond with John Murelle.